Hello everyone, my name is Shiva Tyagi. I am a GKGS faculty. I am having 6 years of teaching experience in online and English medium. I have taught in many renowned institutions and many of my students have secured all in your rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 17, etc. And they have joined government department as an officer and now serving the nation in the best possible manner. Today we would see democratic rights in the political science. First of all, we will see the lesson plan. In the lesson plan of the political science, democratic politics, we would cover democratic rights, why is democracy and why democracy is important in the modern context, constitutional design and its framework, electoral politics, working of institutions. So democratic politics rights we are going to cover today. Very, very important from the examination point of view. In the geography, contemporary India 1, we would study India, its size and location, physical features of India, drainage system and its various types, climate, natural vegetation and wildlife, population. And in population, we are going to cover some special facts mentioned in the census 2011 data. In the economics, we would cover the story of village Palampur, people as a resource, poverty as a challenge, food security in India. In the history, India and the contemporary world, the French Revolution would be covered first of all. After that, socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. In this, we will study the disintegration of USSR and the Nazism and the rise of Hitler in the Germany. Forest, society and colonialism, pastoralist in the modern world. Okay, student. So let's study democratic rights. And before that, I would tell you that I can take it guarantee if you study this topic and revise it thoroughly before your exam, you would mark all your questions correctly in your examination. This question has been repeatedly asked in various competitive examination and also in the boards. So very, very important topic. Okay. So if I talk about the rights, what are rights? Rights are the reasonable claims of a person. Very, very important. Mark these keywords. Reasonable claims of persons which are recognized. Again, these keywords to be noted down by the society. Again, guaranteed. This is the another dimension. Guaranteed, protected, defended, and sanctioned by the law. Law here means fundamental law of the land. That is the supreme law of the land. That is the constitution. Constitution. So, if there is no law, there is no authority to prevent the fundamental rights. If the case of violation of the fundamental rights, then there is no meaning of the rights. So, if we talk about the rights, are the reasonable claims, which means all claims would not be the rights. Only the reasonable, rational, or the logical claims of a person would be the rights. And apart from that, another dimension it covers that they should be recognized, accepted by the society, because society having some norms, custom, tradition, values which are to be accepted, and then it should be guaranteed, protected, and sanctioned by the law. Means if in the case of violation there would be someone, some authority, some government would be there, institution would be there, it would protect your rights, it would not let you hamper. So first of all, we would see its background and historical perspective of the fundamental rights. If we talk about its genesis, The fundamental rights have been taken from the USA Bill of Rights. USA Bill of Rights. Very, very important. And in the USA, they've got its inspiration from the French Revolution 1789. And it has been mentioned in our part 3 of the Constitution of India, Article 12 to 35. That before independence, we were ruled by the Britishers for about 200 years. In that, they have done so many atrocities, oppressions, exploitations of the citizens. So, our constitutional forefathers, they have thought that once they will get independence, they will make the rights fundamental and put it in the constitution. They have written it down over, and they did so because they have seen that time when just passing the Defense of India Act by the British government, they have put all the leaders behind the bar, in which they have curtailed the fundamental rights like the freedom of speech and expression and all. You can't even utter a single word against the British government. So that in the future, no government can curtail the fundamental right of any citizen. So the main aim of the fundamental right is to limit the government. Very, very important, to limit the government. To prevent its citizen from the authoritarian or the totalitarian regime, just like the Hitler did in the Germany, so that no authority can do so. That's why they are the fundamental in the nature. Fundamental in the nature means they are the very, very important. They are the very, very basic right for the overall development of the citizen or the personality of the citizen. So there should be overall development. Overall development contains 4 dimensions, that is material development, intellectual development, moral development, and last but not the least, spiritual development. So once the food, clothing, shelter, basic needs are fulfilled, then the person would move to rationality, toward the scientific progress, and all that is the intellect faculty of the man would be developed. And after that, person would figure out the difference between the right and wrong. And finally, the spiritual development, just like the Swami Vivekananda, or final goal of the life, they will get to know they are born as a human being. So, what is the purpose of the life? So they can fulfill it. They can be the happy. They can live their life with the dignity, which is mentioned in the Article 21. That is the right to life and personal liberty, which is mentioned in the Article 21. And it has got 2 dimensions. The first dimension talks about the procedure established by the law. Procedure established by the law has been taken from the Japanese constitution. The second dimension talks about the due process of a law. Due process of a law has been taken from the USA constitution. Then right to education. Right to education has been added by the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002 and added a new fundamental right, that is the Article 21A, which talks about free and compulsory education. Very, very important. Free and compulsory education. for the age group of children 6 to 14 year. Then right to decent environment. Then only the basic needs to be fulfilled. Clean water should be there. Air, protection against hazardous industries and all. Now, the questions is there that why do we need rights in a democracy? Very, very important question. Why do we need rights? Why our constitutional forefathers have mentioned it separately and they have made it a fundamental and put it in the part third. So they protect, because the fundamental rights are there in the constitution, they protect the liberties and the freedom of the people which have been curtailed in the past. It talks about the liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of belief, liberty of faith and worship, which has been mentioned in the our preamble of the constitution, which is the identity card of our constitution. The whole philosophy of our constitution has been mentioned in the preamble. So they protect the very liberty, the freedom of the people. The main purpose is to prevent the people from the arbitrariness of the law. Arbitrariness of the law. And from the tyranny of executives. Tyranny of executive. It prevents the majority domination over the minority. So the main aim is to establish the idea of political democracy, to restore the government of laws. Very, very important. To establish the government of laws and not the man. Means a government should be there and government should be governed by the some law, that is the fundamental law of the land, that is the supreme law of the land, that is the constitution. So what is supreme is our constitution. So even there are the some rights are there, articles are there mentioned in the part third, which are placed above the government. We can see during the case of emergency in the President Rule, Article 356, that even the state government can be suspended on the ground of failure of constitutional machinery in the state. And it is the duty of union government to protect the states from the war and from the external aggression mentioned in the Article 355. Very, very important. So government of the laws would be there, rule of the law, which has been taken from the British Constitution. So to establish and to limit the government, main aim of fundamental right. So if we talk about rights in the Indian Constitution, if we talk about the original Constitution in the 1950, so there were the 7 fundamental rights. But by the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, 1978, right to property was deleted. Right to property was deleted and now has been made as a legal right. And put it in Article 300A, Part 12 of the Constitution. So now there are 6 fundamental rights. 6 fundamental rights. Very, very important. These are right to equality. Right to equality includes Article 14 to 18, equality before the law and equal protection of the law. Equality before the law have been taken from the UK Constitution and equal protection of the law have been taken from the USA Constitution. Then right to freedom, which we'll study in detail. Right against exploitation 23-24, right to freedom of religion 25 to 28, cultural education at 29-30, and right to constitutional remedies. Again, very, very important article, which is known as the heart and soul of our constitution, has been said by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, sir. It talks about the writs, 5 writs. to be issued by the Supreme Court or the High Court, by the Supreme Court by the Article 32, and by the High Court by the Article 226. So very, very important. Fundamental rights. Types of fundamental rights. So if we talk about the right to freedom, so under the head of right to freedom, there are again the 6 rights. They're the sub part of it. Freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of movement, freedom of residence, and freedom of profession. If we talk about freedom of speech and expression, it has been mentioned in the Article 19. It talks about right to express his views, opinions, belief, and convictions. Expression. So expression could be by your mouth, by your writing, by your advertisement, by writing it down in the journals, in the newspaper, in the editorials, by painting, by dancing, by singing, by putting a flag on the top of your terrace. It is also the part of right to speech and expression. Liberty, thoughts, expression, belief, faith, worship, etc. Even the right to freedom of press. Press, media got it right from the Article 19 itself. Freedom of speech and expression. Right against phone tapping. Right to silence. Etc. If we talk about freedom of assembly, example, public meetings, demonstrations, and takeout processions. Me, people can gather there, people can assemble there, people peacefully and unarmed. Very, very important, peacefully and unarmed. There can be the gathering or the assembly of the people and all. And very common article, which is always been in the news, section 144, by which if it is implemented, then more than 4 to 5 people cannot be together at any particular place. Then there could be the legal action. We know that all the fundamental rights are not absolute. They are qualified in nature. All fundamental rights are qualified in nature. They are not 100% qualified in nature. So there are some reasonable restrictions are there on the basis of sovereignty, unity, integrity of the nation, contempt of court, public order, incitement to an offense, friendly relation with the foreign countries, etc. If we talk about freedom of association, freedom of association talks about if more than people, group of the people came together and now they wanted to get it registered, so they can form political parties, they can form companies, private companies and all are there. They can do the partnership, make the partnership firms and all. Society, registered societies are there, NGOs are there, Amul cooperative societies are there, clubs are there, organizations are there, trade unions are there, or anybody of persons. So they can have legal association for it. Bar association is there. If we talk about freedom of movement, so it gives you the freedom that you can move from one place to another place, from one state to another state. You can move from Kashmir to the Kanyakumari, or from Gujarat to the Nagaland. Because India is a one unit. You need not to have separate like passport, visa. You need to ask, for example, we talk about the European countries, very, very small countries. You need to have passport and visa and all. But here, no, India is a unit. You can move freely without any hesitation, without any passport and all these kind of things. So as a unit, so the basic purpose to promote the national feeling, the nationalism, not the narrow-mindedness, that is the parochialism. Freedom of residence. Freedom of residence talks about right to freedom to reside and settle. It has got two dimensions basically. The first dimension talk about to stay at any place temporarily. If you want to live in Kashmir for 2 years, that's fine. In Uttarakhand for 1 year, that is fine. You can move from one place to another. You can move to the Noida, you can move to the Kanyakumari, you can move to the Bangalore, you can move to the Calcutta, you can move to Chennai, etc. And suppose you want to get settled down, so you can settle in any part of the country. Home, you can make a home there, or domicile you should be having at any particular place for living permanently and all. If you are living there permanently, that is fine. You are the domicile of there. You can apply it for the various vacancies in the government institutions just by having the domicile certificate. So the main purpose to remove the internal barriers and again promote nationalism, feeling of oneness in the country. Not the narrow-mindedness. Then freedom of profession. Freedom of the profession talks about choosing your means of livelihood. So you could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, you could be a teacher, you could be an ICE officer, you could be an IPS officer, anything of your choice. But again, there are some restrictions are there. For example, suppose tomorrow you would want to become an MBBS doctor, then for that you should have MBBS degree. You should have technical qualifications. You want to give UPSC examination, you should have a graduation at least. And also, no fundamental rights are absolute in the nature. There are some reasonable restrictions. Then again, here, there are some sector in which the government is having completely monopoly. For example, defense. Tomorrow you want that you would make the bomb and all. And also some danger things. For example, drugs and all you want to deal. No, you can't deal with it. It is prohibited. And regulation only through the licensing by the government. Very, very important. So finally, last but not the least, that there are the fundamental rights which are for the citizens, so that the citizen can move freely and protect you from the arbitrariness of the laws or the invasion by the state. For your personal development, for your overall development, fundamental rights are there in the Constitution. Okay, so that's all for the session. If you are having any doubt, you can ask. So let's wind up the session. Looking forward to meet you again. That's all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.